Peace and grand rising to the air. This is, today is October the 1st, 2020, and it's also 1440 on the sun calendar and 1441 on the moon calendar. Today is the day of the full moon, so the energies are really, really high. And so, with that in mind, let's also keep in mind that when the full moons come, that energies tend to go in a particular direction, and we are ensuring that each of us, that our energies are continuing to be in the right direction as we proceed. So the energies are seemingly somewhat chaotic when there's a full moon. So it is suggested that we all quiet our minds and quiet our energy so we can hear what the ancestors have to say to us from within us during this time period. I want to first mention the court actions that are on the screen. We've had court actions this week, to include today. We also have a court action on Saturday. Princess Ali is having her court action on Saturday as well, and that is on the screen along with the dial-in information and the access code. And so we want to, the court actions are one of our nation's top priorities, simply because that is how the estate is manifested as returned back to us. If the estate never left us, but it matters that we now say that it's ours by way of a valid court, because there were no valid courts on the land, and now there are, and it's all of us. So we're excited about that. Justice Lewis, I believe you had a question that you were going to ask.
Islam. Yes, I did.
Islam.
After you declare your nationality, you do the UCC financing on your name, on the corporate name and the social. Is there any reason?
It's an affidavit.
And is there any reason to go into a probate court?
No. But again, you must do the study in order to know that. If you feel like a probate court has any say in your estate, then just send them notification. That is the suggestion. However, it is best that you do the study on why we do not need to go into their court. And for those Moors who don't go into their courts, the reason we're not going into their courts is because we are doing court actions, which is proof that we are the valid court. It is suggested that all Moors do court actions, and that way you know from your own demonstration that you don't need to be in any court that is inferior to yours and to you. So have you done well, and I won't put you on the spot, because you've probably done some already as well. But those who have questions about whether we should go into those other courts, it is suggested that you study the Moorish American consular court action process and then do it. That's a suggestion. You can't tell the sovereigns what to do, but it's best to do the court action so that you know exactly why you don't have to go in there. When you read we have like a general scriptum that we use, a general script that we use for our court actions. And then the Moors who are doing court actions tailor them to their specific court, whatever their court is doing, because each Moor has their own sovereign court. But all together, we are united as the Moorish American Consular Court. And that's all Moors. It doesn't matter which nation you or government you proclaim, we're all still a part of the Moorish American Consular Court as a nation, because it's a blood right. It is a birth right. to be a part of it. And so in the scriptum, it says that we are the sovereign jurisdiction in all matters on our land. The scriptum also says that whatever we bind in heaven is bound on earth, and whatever we loose on earth, is loosed in heaven. Whatever we bind on earth is bound in heaven. Whatever we loose on earth is loosed in heaven. So everything about the scriptum says that we have sovereign jurisdiction, and that when you say that enough, you'll realize that you don't, because that's a spell, and you'll realize you don't have to go into their court. Because once the spells start coming from your lips, then that's the sword that you will need in order to cut the head off of that other fake, all of that fake activity. So to answer your question, do the study. It is suggested that we not go into their courts because those are not real courts. They're fake. And they are not for the air. Islam.
I do understand that. If somebody brought that question up to me, and I was just wanting to be clear. I already knew the answer, but they didn't seem to get the answer.
Yes.
Islam.
Now, we do not suggest that people just say, oh, well, we have our own court, so I'm not going to go to theirs. We don't suggest that. We suggest that they be actively being the court, because that's the real way to prove that we don't need their court. That's how you prove it. But each more must do that for themselves. Each more must do some court action so that they can cast the spell and break the spell in their own minds about why they don't need to.
El Harid.
Tiana Bay.
Grand Rising, Emperor and Empress, welcome. And so, we have to do that. That's, if you're not being the court, then who's governing your estate? And your estate cannot be left ungoverned. And so if we don't do it, even for each of our own estates, then the fakes will attempt to do it. And then they're going to say, okay, you're saying we're fake. Where's the real court? Where your stuff is concerned? Because we're talking about you, supposedly. Who's the real court? Who is it? Where is it? Where are they? We need to see them where your specific affairs are concerned. So each more should do court action in order to prove that you are the sovereign jurisdiction. Okay. Nature abhors a vacuum, and we've been stressing that a lot lately because it's going to be even more important as we move forward. For many years, we were telling them that they were fake this and they're fake that and they're fake the other. We tell them that their policy enforcers are fake. Well, then they have, where's the real one? Where are the real police? Where's the real law enforcement? That's us. And we cannot keep telling them they're fake and we don't put the real up. We have to put up or, do the study until we do put up. Because we can't shut up. We have to still speak. Some people say put up or shut up, and that's easy to say, but we don't have that option. There is no shut up. Yeah, the real government must speak now, and that's another reason why the calls will continue. We'll keep meeting and we'll keep speaking because we need to. Now, the beauty about all of this is that even as we're having these calls, there are other calls that are springboarding and manifesting in alignment with these calls that we have. There are other calls that are arising because more see a need for more, to springboard and bring and manifest some things that the ancestors have put on their hearts. And we welcome that. That is necessary in our nation. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Islam.
Islam. with regard to anything, whatever the last three things that we have all said to, with regard to corporations, when we say, well, their Congress is fake. Well, where's the real Congress? We're it. So that's what these meetings are too. These are congressional meetings just as well as any other meeting, We're still the law. We're still the government. All of that. And that's why we continue to have these meetings, because we have to. This is not something that's an option. It's not an option. It's something that has to be done. So are there any other questions before we get into the topic? I'm excited about the topic, by the way. Are there any other questions or updates from your territories, questions that are going on in your territories, or questions that others are bringing to you, just like the Noble just said? Someone asked him that, and he wanted to know.
The Pauline Shit Show. Welcome to the Pauline Shit Show, you stupid fucker, stupid fucking Moors.
And that's why we have to speak, because we cannot allow that type of, that cannot represent us, you see. And if we don't speak, that kind of foolishness is going to attempt to speak for us. And we, that's a no-no. They know that. They're aware of that. And now we are.
Islam? Islam?
Islam.
I want to say one thing. You notice that he said Moors this time. He said Moors.
Yes,
he recognized who we are. Yeah, he didn't say any other name.
Well, they one minute we don't exist, and the next minute, 1 minute we don't exist, and the next minute we're the Moors, and then the third minute they're a Bay or a Moor, according to them. So again, we'll speak for ourselves. Thank you. We got it. Islam. Are there any, and he's going to do this for
It's
probably,
the Welfare Mother Show.
He's going to do this for a minute until I just boot him out. I'm not going to lock the meeting, at least not right this second. Well, maybe I need to, for now.
Yes,
anyway, just to see, that's why I don't want to block it. Go ahead, Empress. Islam Empress, go ahead.
Oh, I was just
Pauline, you big fucking cunt. What's the
Go ahead, Empress.
Islam. This is Helen Crowder. I've been listening since January, and I'm still listening.
Islam. Welcome, Empress.
Islam.
We're glad you're here.
Okay.
Yes. We're glad you're here, and thank you for speaking up and letting us know that you're here. We can feel your energy and your presence. We appreciate you.
Okay.
Islam.
Islam.
So, with regard to the energy, before we get into the policy, the police part, and the law enforcement, and in reality, we've already been doing law enforcement, so this is just this is more of the same. We've already been delivering documents. We've already been telling them, coming face to face, so to speak, and not really face to face, so that's not even fair for us to say we're face to face with foreigners, because that just doesn't exist. But we've been enforcing the law this whole time, and most of us have had situations where we dealt with directly the fake policy enforcers and the fake judges. Sometimes I'm tempted to ask, is there anyone who has not had an experience with the fake policy enforcers and the fake judges? And that is actually the response that I know we would get in that case, is everyone has. No one can say, oh no, I've never had I've never had to face them. I've never had a foreclosure. I've never had any bills that were sent that I thought were mine, because we don't have any, but that we thought were ours, etc. So now we're at the point where this is the next step. This is the graduation, which is organizing as law enforcement in a different way than what we've already been doing. Again, everything that we've been doing up to now is already law enforcement. Already. There's nothing new about it. There's nothing that, you know, scary about it. Is it going to be perfect every time, the processes? No. Are we Moors who are of the bloodline and birthright? Are we perfect? Yes, we're perfect. And some may disagree with that, and that's okay, but when you realize who created us, you'll know that we are perfect, but the processes are what is not perfect, and that's what we're going to continue to manifest and to perfect. That's why we're here, to perfect the processes. You know, and when I say we're perfect, that's all Moors. No matter who, no matter what the demonstration, no matter whether they're awake or asleep, you know, still always perfect. So this part that we're going into, and it's really just a manifestation of the same. So over the next few weeks, and I placed one of the orders last night. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be introducing some, the same way that we've introduced everything else. We're going to introduce some Moorish, Wazir, police or law enforcement uniforms that we as a nation can discuss and talk about and decide on what that should look like. And, you know, it's not, it's going to change over time. We already know that, just like everything else that we've done, everything else that we've put out there. And again, there are more who are already doing this work of law enforcement. And we honor them first, let me say that. We honor all that they're doing. We're not attempting to recreate the wheel. All we're doing is bringing more support and more assistance to them who are already doing it by our demonstration. And we'll demonstrate it the way that we see fit to demonstrate it. And then we'll continue to come together and grow in that aspect.
You fucking fraud, Pauline.
You know, so, is there anyone who has any thoughts on what the uniform, and it's not really a uniform, it's who we really are, but what that should look like, you know? Because I've been doing some research online, and I'm sorry. Empress, go ahead, Empress.
Pauline, what's the fucking problem?
Go ahead, Empress. I looked online to see what the uniforms, you know, what we wore in the past, and I didn't see a whole lot. And I'm not surprised that I didn't see a whole lot, because the ancestors want us to do the demonstration first, and then they'll show us how close we came to what it should be. So I just I picked some items and I ordered them using sovereign credit, of course. And when they come, I'll post the photos of what I have, online, and then we can continue as a nation to decide how we want to look in each of the territories, you know, as far as our uniforms are concerned, so that when they see those uniforms, they will know who we are and what, because we don't want to look like them at all. In terms of, I have gotten photos of Moors who had on the all-black combat and tactical uniforms, and I thought it was beautiful to see our flags on them. I am of the in my knower, I know that we should probably have an arm of our police that wear white instead of black. The majority of the photos that I've seen of Moors who are gathering in terms of this same piece, they look a lot like the Albion. You know, they look a lot like them because they're in all black, and if you don't see the flag, you'll think that they're one of the Albion. And I'm not completely comfortable with that, you know, especially when you're talking about, when you consider the fact that whenever people see that type of gear, and I'm not bashing I love our brothers, in fact, they look actually very, very, it was encouraging to see them dressed in that manner, because I know we're all going in the same direction. But when people see that type of gear, it sometimes triggers the programming. And we also know that those state policy enforcers have been, they have been getting, you know, things thrown at them and all of that, you know, whenever they come out these days. They've been, you know, it's been people throwing rotten fruit and vegetables and all types of stuff, which, you know, we Moors do not participate in those types of behaviors, but from their own citizenry, they've been taking a pretty, you know, a beating these days. And so we don't want to be mistaken for that. So I in my knower, I think that we should be wearing white. And so I did order some white wears, apparel. And then, of course, we'll be wearing our turbans and fezes. So we're not going to ever look like them anyway, because we'll be wearing turbans and fezes. Like our prophet said, in this time you will see turbans and fezes in the streets everywhere. And I'm excited about that too. So are there any comments about that? And have any of you seen any photos maybe from the 30s or 40s when we did have our own, you know, when the Muftis were fully present, etc.? And I'm not saying that they're not fully present now, because I know that in certain territories there are Muftis and Moorish law enforcement that are already doing some awesome work. I see in the chat our brother put that white symbolizes peace, and that is absolutely correct. That they've been wearing black the whole time because they are black. That's why. And they're fake judges. It's not a coincidence that their policy enforcers and their fake judges wear the same color. It symbolizes their status. And so it's our turn to step up and do that. One of the things that the Moors, some of the feedback that we've been getting with regard to this piece has been that the Moors are concerned about having to, you know, do hand-to-hand interactions with people. And that's not something that we're doing. Not right now. That's not something that we're doing. We are right now. Again, all we're doing is delivering documents and making our presence known. That's actually the most important part, is making our presence known in the territories. We've been saying that we're here. Oops, sorry, Empress.
Why don't you leave me, you dumb bitch?
We just want to make our presence known. We want in the territories. We need it to be known that we're here, and that we are protecting that which belongs to us, and we're in the position to do that. And so, you know, I'm hoping that once we do show the first, it will just be an iteration of a uniform.
What's the matter, you stupid cunt?
You know, it'll be an iteration of a uniform. Pretty mad. And then, you know, whatever feedback we get from you all with regard to what it should look like, then we'll make the adjustments from that perspective, you know. And then each one of the territories can have, can add whatever they want to add, but it's always going to be best that we all look very,
I'm still waiting for my leans
to one another, you know, that we look the same. Okay. In the rudder and the sextant, hopefully everyone has a copy of that, an electronic copy of the rudder and the sextant, so that you can see what colors we wear.
Because you're a fucking fraud.
And again, the colors that we wear are always going to be red and white and green in some form or another, red, white, and green. And then occasionally, there, you know, we do have a black fez and black. We do wear black. But just as was put in the chat, I believe that black it means war. And I don't think that we're called to war. In fact, I
better lock it up, bitch. Lock it up, bitch.
We're supposed to be love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. You know. And so I think that if we stay with that, we'll be okay. And you know, the colors of our flag, white, as always, sovereign white is always going to be a great color, you know, for us to wear, because it symbolizes who we really are.
What about Jeramoop and Malo?
You know, are there any questions or comments with regard to that? And do any of you know any of any Moorish American nations or governments or groups or temples who are already doing law enforcement in that manner?
Lock it up, Pauline.
You don't tell me what to do, and you're not talking to me, so I'm going to boot you. Okay. Justice Jermore, are you here?
Islam.
You've been bumping Stargate with Halo?
I know that you have been, you've been around Moorish nations and governments, and are they doing law enforcement? And if so, what do they wear?
Generally, the whatever type of not so much of a
you got any post office takeovers, Jeramoop?
One of the modified, well, a black fez is one thing that the Moors will wear that are doing that. Most of them also would wear the Moorish flag pin. I really haven't seen any uniforms, so to speak, because we do not have what would be called a uniform service at this point. We're supposed to be able to deal with things without that, but it takes a different type of knowing how to do it, and it takes a little bit different work, which is happening in many places. You can check some of it in the on the Washita, like the Washita Moors, North Carolina, South Carolina, even Los Angeles, and there are things that are forming, but they're forming out of sight, so that when they show up, it'll be a pleasant surprise for the ones expecting it, and something different for those who think they have a clear run. But that's really all I would say about that right now. Islam.
Well, thank you for that, Justice Jeremore. I do know that, you know,
you talk like you got a bunch of fucking assholes
forming,
on here.
They're forming, because I believe this is the time for that. And we're doing things the way that we're doing them in terms of publicly doing things for the most part, because the other nations, the other Moorish nations, because we don't have anything to prove to anyone, especially not foreigners on our land. But the other nations, the other Moorish nations, are wanting to do the same thing, but they just want to see others do it as well. They don't want to feel like they're doing it by themselves in a vacuum. And so they've been forming, but once they get their uniforms and everything, they're finding that they then they kind of twiddle their thumbs, kind of like, well, what's next? What do we do now? And then are we the only ones doing this? You know, it hasn't been any significant numbers. And so we want to assist and support in that way. And again, the reason why I said white is because this is not an act of war. We're not declaring war on our own land. What we're doing is standing and governing. And when you look up when you do the etymology, and I don't mean you in particular, I'm just saying you in general, on the call, you know, all of us. When we do the etymology on the word police, it means government of a city. And we know that we govern. So basically, when we go out into the territories and we have our white uniforms on, we are bringing back the peace to the territories that is much needed. We're the ones who, you know, modeled for them, where, you know, they have the little child coming up to the police and, you know, asking a question or saying, what's this for? Or that, you know, in many of our territories, we would not feel comfortable doing that. And in fact, we don't do it here. We don't ask state policy enforcement anything, because that's just, they have nothing to do with us. And so we're the ones who are going to be going out into the neighborhood, not the neighborhoods, because that's not the right word, but the territories, and letting the face of peace be shown. That's actually the best way to put that. That the face of peace and love and truth and justice and freedom is shown. Anytime the fakes would go to another quote-unquote country with their military action, no matter what they were doing, no matter how vicious and atrocious their acts were, they always came back saying that the people in those places were so happy to see them because they knew freedom had arrived. because the Americans were there. Now we know that that's a bunch of baloney when it comes to foreign colonial operations. But when it comes to us, that's exactly what it is. And so we want to be the piece in every way possible to include what we wear. We want to be uniform in that manner. Some feel that spiritually we can skip this step, and they're right. But we're manifesting on more than one level and in more than one dimension. We're manifesting in other dimensions as well, which includes the land, this physical dimension that we're on, as well as the spiritual. And so to manifest in that way peacefully will be in alignment with what we've been doing. Everything that we've been doing up to now has been to preserve and to present peace. So this is just more of that. So we're not doing it. We're totally different from that which has been presenting itself or representing on our land. We're completely different from that. We're nothing like it. And this is our opportunity to show that we're nothing like that. So I'm excited about it, about this level. So let me, yes, I'm looking in the chat, and the chats that are coming from the heirs. White symbolizes peace. Justice Yezreel says, color is a key. It is a key. It is a key to competent governing of the vast estate. And Justice Welton says, we are the true white people. Absolutely. Absolutely. And part of one of the uniform pieces that I ordered is also a red. It's red. It's a red top, and then with white over it. Okay, and then white bottom. So the pants will be white as well, and then turban and fez, and of course they will have our flag on them by the time you see them, because they didn't come with the flag on them. I had to order our flags separately, the patches, the badges that are our flag that go on our clothing. I ordered them separately, and I'm going to put them on the clothing when the clothing arrives, and then take some photos and just kind of get some opinion about what you think about it, as that being our uniform. And we'll start there. It's just a starting point. It's not where we will end up. It's a starting point, because there's no end to us, but it's a starting point. We have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. We can't not do it. We actually have to do it. And those who don't feel that it's necessary, yes, go ahead, Justice.
Yeah, Malika speaking. I was just curious to know if you've heard of Grantor Lamont Bell.
I have.
You have? Okay. I just want to.
Grantor Belton is doing some awesome work. You saw his uniform that he wears, and he has different iterations of it. And then he also has the 5-pointed star badge, and then he has a 5-gallon hat, like the sheriffs or the sheriffs wear. But he's doing great work. I have watched some of his videos, and he's an inspiration as well. And one thing I do absolutely love about the work that he does is that his spirit is peaceful. He doesn't carry weapons. His spirit is peaceful. And that is actually the key. I saw recently one of his recent videos. He has ventured into the consular court area, which is, which we absolutely are just so pleased about. And that's, to me, that's, you know, when you can see the importance of consular court in that whole platform. So yes, I have seen his videos, and I would encourage other Moors to watch his videos so you can see what he's doing, because he quotes a lot of codes and statutes that can be used. However, whenever we do quote, you know, whenever we quote a code or a statute or put it in our documents, we decapitalize it and make it our own and make it a sovereign code or statute for us, because it has to come from us, you know.
Islam, and I'll put his name in the chat.
Islam. And if you want to put a link to, he has a video entitled, it has Consulate Court, and he just did it last month. That was the first mention that I've seen in his work of consular court action. And so there's a video on his channel with regard to that. So if someone could put that in the chat, that would be great, so that we can see what he is saying about consular courts. I did watch the video. It's a good video. I believe that that is a manifestation that we are still one, and that the ancestors are bringing us together still. Okay, so, and any assistance that he needs with regard to court actions and consular court actions, you know, we're always going to be there for our nation, no matter who it is, and we're actually honored that he's doing the work that he's doing. We see the changes in his work as well over the years, and the Grand Rising is real. That's for sure. It's Grantor Belton. Grantor Belton. So watch his videos as well. I believe that, you know, all of the studies that we've been doing, and we keep our eyes open for Moors that are doing the work as well, of which there are many. And we can see the convergence of all of the actions. We can see the convergence. Princess Ali has put it in the chat, the link to his Aboriginal Consular Court video, so that you all can take a look at that as well. Again, all of this is resources that we can use. He is actually a great example of why we need to do this and how we can do it. Now, our processes are going to be decapitalized processes, and that's the difference between, you know, what others have done in the past and what we're doing. We are outside of the capitalist system, which is where we need to be, because you can't really have diversity of nationality if you're using capitalism. That's not diversity of nationality, because that's corporate. Diversity of nationality is manifested by the use of in capitis nolo documents and in capitis nolo speech, spells. Okay. Yes, his information is in the chat. He is another example that we can look at and pull some things from, and then put our matriarchal and patriarchal energies on it and eyes on it, so we can see how it's done. And it can be done, again, this police, law enforcement rather, is a better term for us. this law enforcement piece that we're doing can be done without people getting hurt and can be done without a bunch of the riffraff that we've seen on our land over the last 400 years. The part that many of us have not seen is that before 1956, we had our own law enforcement. And if you want to know a little bit more about that or see it in writing, do a decapitalization demonstration on the 1906 Convention at Algeciras. The 1906 Convention at Algeciras was where the Sultan called all of the nations together, and the nations at that time, and we'll have to do some more research about that, but the nations that were being called together at that time, the United States Corporation Company was not a nation, and they never were, they never have been, and they never will be, because corporations cannot be that. They're a society, and they're a corporation. But even in the Convention at Algeciras, 1906, the United States Corporation Company stated on the record that they shouldn't be there and that they're not here at Morocco for political reasons, that they're just here for commerce. They put that on the record there in that act. And that act was done, and not the act, but the convention at Algeciras, the actual convention at Algeciras, 1906, was done because there was a need to go and collect from the corporations, because the corporations owed the heirs, the Sultan at that time. And so he, and I hesitate to say he in terms of Sultan, because we know Sultan is a group of people. It's a group of heirs. It's not one person. A Sultan it manifests in the same way, much the same way, as a judiciary body, a body of judges in the Moorish American, in our culture. And he wanted all of the police, because in the translation of that event, they were called police, Mohammedan police and Moorish police. It specifies Moorish police and Mohammedan police, and that the Moorish were to be the head of all of that. So we were supposed to be, and we still are, we always have been and always will be, the head of all law enforcement. But there you will see it on the record. It's on the record there that we are that. Even though that's a corporate iteration of the decapitalized version of the convention at Algeciras. So take a look at that. Let that be a part of your study as well. And then we'll continue moving in this direction. We're not in any hurry to do anything that we do. We're not in any hurry. But we are going to get it done. We're going to continue to get it done for this arm of the Moorish government. Okay? We are one arm of, our nation and our government. There are others. There are other arms and other legs and other heads, which is all Moors. We know that Allah means arm, leg, arm, head. So there are quite a few links that are being placed in the chat right now. So please take advantage of those links. There is, thank you, Justice Yaqub Ali, for putting the link to the convention at Algeciras in there. Justice Jiramore, thank you for the Mufti site. And Justice Malik for the Grantor Belton information as well. And Princess Ali, thank you for putting the Aboriginal Consular Court video, the link to Grantor Belton's video in the chat as well. So be sure to take advantage of that information so that as we progress forward, and know that we are aware of the energy of fear where this piece is concerned. We're aware of the energy of fear. But it's through the securing of this land in this manner that the confidence and the inner constitution of many of the Moors will manifest. And that's really, from my perspective, the greatest reason to do it, is so that we know. And I believe that's why the ancestors are having this piece manifest now too, is we need to know that we are the law and we are the government, and we have every right and every responsibility to govern our land from the uniformed law enforcement perspective. It's really just so that we can see it for ourselves. It's not really for any other reason. Because we know we're not at war. We know that we're not at war with each other. So we're not protecting anything from each other because we have access to everything. But what it is so that we can see, all of us can see, that we are exactly who we said we are. And we're exactly who the law says we are. We're exactly who our ancestors said we are. And that's the reason why the uniforms and the manifestation of wazirs and muftis and razums and the like. It's the same, and this will be this is a continual process that we're going to be doing, along with the court actions. All of that is continual. This is stuff that these are government actions that will be ongoing into perpetuity, really. And so that's why we're doing them the way that we're doing them and rolling them out this way, is so that we can. And then the entire manifestation of our law enforcement officers, it may take 6 months or a year to fully manifest in the way that we see it in our mind's eye. But it will manifest. And we're going to do everything that we can to continue to make that manifest. And like we do with everything else that we've done, we are going to step right on out there and do it, and then report back so that we can all share our experiences and our opportunities for growth and our opportunities to rise where law enforcement on our land is concerned. Some people may say, well, this is a little bit different because, people have lost their lives doing law enforcement. Well, we can look at the news and see that, it is being projected that people lose their lives over candy, Skittles, and sodas. So we cannot let what we see coming, the energy that we see emanating from TV screens and things and computer screens, stop us. In fact, it should be a motivator that tells us that we need competent law enforcement who does not have to resort to that type of activity. We need competent Moors who know that we don't have to shoot each other down in the street, because we have higher dimensions that we operate from when it comes to relations with one another and exchanges with one another. That needs to manifest. what that looks like needs to manifest, and foreigners cannot do that. Foreigners can't manifest that. Only we can. So I'll be bringing, and then I'll also, once the uniform, the pieces that I've ordered thus far, once they arrive and you see them, yes, they do. Once the pieces arrive and you see them, we can tweak and tailor it and get it to where we feel comfortable.
Islam?
With regard to the uniform, and then we'll go from there. Islam, Empress.
Portia was trying to get in. She says locked.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's why I don't like to lock it. And you know, a lot of times that one particular bot prefers that we lock the meeting so other Moors can't get in, and I don't like to do that. You know.
The Albions have defeated you.
One lone voice crying in the wilderness. Islam. So it's just downright funny sometimes. But with regard to law enforcement conveyances, yes. Okay, Empress Shatali, just one. Let Justice Jiramore go first, and then you can go, Empress Shatali, after Justice Jiramore.
But is your shit show over yet tonight, Pauline?
State his case.
Is your shit show over tonight, you dumb cunt?
So,
Pauline, have you stopped your recording tonight?
Islam.
Pauline.
For the
Islam, Jiramore, how you
go
doing?
ahead, Justice Jiramore. Go ahead, Jiramore.
What Albion needs to know is that up until 1910, they were the only ones referred to as Negroes and slaves. Not any of the Moors. And no, they didn't defeat us. We gave them an opportunity to come up from where they didn't know how to do anything and to get them into the human family. However, most of them have proven that they are not able to operate there at this point. So, they choose to stay in the pig pen and act like that. Just wanted to bring that up so people know that, when they talk about conquered, no, we've never been conquered by anyone, cannot be conquered by anyone.
Join in with the shit show, Jaramoop.
People use words because they don't know how to read, they don't know how to study, and they're quite frankly incompetent. But they use and point at us talking about incompetence while the very machinery that was used to try to make us of no effect has actually been the worst thing for them twice.
Why aren't you out taking over a post office?
So people can say what they wish, but ignorance is not bliss, and they are very ignorant. I will rest with that.
Islam, and then one of the justices put in the chat. Let me see. What did they put in the chat? That was.
We're all waiting for your post office takeover.
He put in the chat. People need another model for behavior. The actual humans need to know, and the gods of the land need to see this.
You better lock it up, you dumb lesbian.
Right now, especially the ones that are waking up now, they need to see that we do know who we are and all of that. And they see that already. but we want to continue to manifest that. So I think it's important to.
The Albions are waiting for you guys. Come on.
In this manner, it's important for us to move in this manner. And it's actually, again, we don't even have to worry about the foreigners. We don't have to worry about them. All we have to do is continue doing what we're doing. If they could stop what we're doing, you know, they would have done it. They can't stop it. And so, you know, we're just going to.
And Islam, I also wanted to say that this month was going to be a huge month. So I would like to come in with some astrological reports.
You're too fucking afraid to take over
Sunday or for next Sunday. So, Empress Light, I'll keep in touch with you to let you know when exactly. But there is a lot of great things happening this month. And
yes, Islam. There are a lot of great things happening.
Must be horoscope time.
So that and that I believe, and it's not even a belief, it's a knowing. I know that this phase that we're moving into, this era, and these steps that we're taking right now have everything to do with the energies and the changeover. The transition is going to continue to be peaceful. I mean, if you really think about it, we've been in transition for quite a while, and overall, the transition has been peaceful. Overall, we're here. We've been tested, of course, and some don't think that the testing is peaceful. They think it's acts of war. But I know that we create everything, and so I know that that the testing is not something we should be afraid of, or that we should, you know, change our energy to energy that is destructive over testing. Overall, the transition has been peaceful up to this point. We're all still here. And then the ones who are not here, we already know where they are. So no one has transitioned to the higher plane by way of loss of physical life throughout this transition. And we know that it's going to stay that way as long as we continue to move in a manner that where our spirits are peaceful about this whole move, this whole transition. The only thing they have left is for someone to come into a meeting and call a few names. But that's the only defense mechanism, and it's not even a good one. It's very incompetent, you know. Other than that, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And security is more what this is about. We're not afraid. Let me put that on the record. We're not manifesting the law enforcement and the wazir and police part of our nation. We're not manifesting that out of fear. Let's put that on the public record. This is not a fear move. We're not afraid of anything or anyone. So that's not why this is being done. It's being done so that the heirs that are to come can see. They don't have to deal with foreigners when they can deal with their own nation. So this is not, we're not doing anything because we want to fight fake policy enforcers, because in reality, the only thing that they're doing is occupying the equipment and the buildings and all of that until we come. And when we come in peace. We are peace. And they won't even be there when it's time for us to do what we do. The demonstration that I did at the post office where I raised our flag because the post office had been left open. Our resources are not to be abandoned. That's the same way that it is with any other of our resources. When it's time for us to use those resources, okay, we're going to be able to use them. Right now, we always talk about fake policy enforcers, et cetera, but are we standing and not creating a vacuum? Because, see, we can lean them out of the way, which we've done, but then there has to be some law enforcement on the land. There has to be. There has to be. And it must be the heirs. It must be. It cannot not be the heirs. Foreign occupation is simply something that's happening or that had happened because we were not there. But now we're here.
The Albions have won every time.
We're competent. We're here, we're competent, and we know exactly what we're doing. So, that whole foreign, occupation piece is, they're just occupying until we come. I see that here in this territory on a regular basis where we claim something, and if we don't go and go ahead and use it, if we don't use it,
we're still waiting for you, Pauline.
Reoccupy, they come back and reoccupy. And so it's up to us to make sure that that doesn't happen when we claim things. There's enough of us now. It's interesting because as I was going through the territory today, and I was talking to the ancestors about
you're going to bring out a post office, Pauline?
The number of Moors that are out there. And they showed me, it just seems like Moors came out of nowhere, but they were asleep today when I went out into the territory. And the ancestor said, yeah, a lot of Moors here, they're just still asleep. And so, but they are getting the divine urge to wake up. They're getting the divine urge to wake up. We can hear you typing, Justice Fearmore. They're getting the divine urge to wake up. We've talked with some of them and organically spoken to them. And when I say organically, we didn't go up to them and start talking about nationality. Just yesterday, the conversation with me and a sleeping Moor happened because we were walking through the territory in one of the retail places, and he just said, good afternoon. And myself and one of the other empresses in the territory, I said, Grand Rising. And he looked, he said, okay, say it again so that I can understand what you're saying. And I said, we say Grand Rising. And then I began to explain to him that Grand Rising is a metaphysical greeting that we give to one another who are of the bloodline and birthright. And then I explained to him what the Grand Rising was. And of course, you already know what the ancestors did. The ancestors sent the energy, the activation energy, and his ONA was activated, and he wanted to know more. And so, contact information was exchanged so that he could go and look on his own. Not that anyone's going to hold hands or anything like that, but contact information, usually I give them, pages on Facebook that they can go to and look at, websites that they can go to and look at so that their research starts there and not with, anyone holding their hand and leading them somewhere. And then we say, once you look at those, then here's the number. But look at that stuff first. Look at that information first, and do your research on that information, and download the name change and judicial proclamation. Do the research first, and then we'll talk. And some we hear from, and some we hear from them later down the road, and they say, remember we met in this place or that place, and you told me this. Well, I've been demonstrating now for 6 months, and I just, I'm just so glad we met at that time, So aside from that, are there any other questions or comments of any kind with regard to the law enforcement piece? Or the uniform piece? Are there any seamstresses on the line? Anyone who can sew? So Empress Shatali, there is a huge amount of feedback on your line. I'd love to hear from you.
Islam, I think I fixed it.
Yes, you did. Go ahead. That's it.
Great. I'm contacting someone who does designs, his Nobility Designs, Trey Reed Bay, about the enforcement badges. And so I'm working with him to see what he can come up with. He said he can do lowercase and all that kind of stuff. So. Hopefully I'll have some information on that next week. And then I did email Melo about it, but I don't know if I used one of her emails that she used most often. But I'm working with her too, so we can put some stuff together.
Yes, Islam.
Islam.
Any information that you get about the badges, and then please let me know. And that way we can see about that too. There has been some objection to having the 5-point star badge from someone on the call, actually, and so we're keeping that taking that into consideration as well. But there are some Moors who want them, and for the Moors who want to have those badges, I think they should have them in all lowercase letters in red.
Okay. I'm working with Mail on that, so you're welcome.
Yes. Yes, thank you. So the Moors who want to have those can have them. It's completely up to you how you want to demonstrate that. We do want continuity and, along the way with what we're doing. So I think that if we, once we put the photos about what the uniform is going to look like, and or at least we're a starting point at what the uniform is going to look like, then we can go from there with regard to those who want the badges, and then those who want the flag and its placement on the uniform, however we do that. So we're at the beginning stages, and so let's give ourselves some time to manifest the uniform piece. And we'll just take our time and do it however the ancestors lead us to do it. I'm excited because the Moors are, we've been waiting for enforcement. Not knowing, some did not know that we're the enforcement, even though we say we are the law and we are the government. And it's now time to manifest that we are the law and we are the government. And that's where the resources come in at. Empress Carla, I see you in the chat, Empress. Thank you so much. I may be in touch with you, Empress, about getting the badges, getting the flag placed on either on our turbans or on or on the, you know, somewhere on the uniform a particular way. Some sew them on, and then some use the iron-on flag, because I did see that while I was out on the internet doing looking up some information about that. And then one of our empresses, Empress Brandy Yamina El Bay, she does some great. She has some great hats, Moorish hats, that have our flag on them. And if you look down on my Facebook page, you'll see that hat. It's a green hat. I think that's going to be probably a part of our uniform for those who want those hats. But then more so than not, it's going to be definitely turbans and fezzes that are going to be our headdress. It just depends on whether you're Mufti or Wazir or Razam, or, you know, it depends on what you choose to do or which arm of law enforcement you choose to be. And then as sovereigns, there's no reason why we can't wear all of those hats at one point or another, because I know I'm going to have one of each. Because sometimes I'll be doing document delivery, other times I'll be doing serving arrest and imprisonment commands at some point once we get to that bridge. And that's if we need that. We may not need that. Once, you know, we'll just see how the ancestors lead us to do it, and we'll keep moving in that direction. You know, so Justice Yearmore, what were you saying in the chat about the League of Nations, 1920 to 1944? Then United Nations was formed in 1945, and I see that you have United Nations in all lowercase letters, which is us.
Islam. What I was saying was that prior to the League of Nations being formed, Moors were still, at that time, pretty much in charge of all the things going on in the world. Remember, this is just after World War II, when the supposed European nations were fighting each other. No, they were not fighting each other. They were busy murdering people all over the world, which is what they do. However, many of the people that they were looking to murder just decided to go to inner earth for a while. So a lot of our people have had a hiatus of about anywhere from 180 down to maybe 100 years that they've been away from what's happening, and that's the majority. The very fact that we're here is because we decided to come back in, just to make sure the thing doesn't fall apart. You know, because all the while the so-called wars have been going on, and we read all the stories about how many meteorite strikes and whatever from outer space, and that always you're hearing a bunch of projectiles flying by. It's a lie. All of those so-called meteorite strikes are things that happened from wars that were going on by these people just doing their darndest to tear the earth apart and to try to get to inner earth. They've never been able to get there. So that's what has pissed them off. Even up to 1950s, the late 1950s, when they were shooting a total of 258 nuclear bombs were exploded against the canopy as they were trying to crack the canopy with explosions of that sort. Then when they talked about, they went to the underground nuclear explosions to test. Nah, they were testing to see if they could break into inner earth again. So, you know, they've always been doing this sort of stuff, and You can see the evidence by what was done in Arizona, what was done in Colorado, and in many, many parts of the world. Whenever you see a place that you see a lot of melted or appearing to be melted rock, hey, rock doesn't melt from campfires. It takes 5,000 to 8,000 degrees to melt it and make it run like that. So there's ample evidence that we've been around so long, it's not even funny. And they've been around so little time that it is funny that they've been able to do what appears to be a lot of damage, but really isn't. And we just have to know that time never was when man was not. Mankind came along in time, but time never was when man was not. So we just have to keep that in mind. Yeah. We're not running a race. We're just doing what we do. Living and experiencing ourself, which is we are life, and we give life and we experience it. Islam.
Islam, is this the cult show still going?
That's profound. We think, it does look like they've done, a lot of damage, but they really haven't when you think about who the creators are and what we can create and how often we create. So, having said that, I think, are there any other questions or comments about the uniform and about what is the name of it? I just talked about it. And about the sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Justice. Go ahead, I'm sorry. You were gonna say something, go ahead. Okay. Are there any questions about the uniform or anything like that? It probably isn't at this point, just because we're just venturing into this portion of it.
Islam, I have a question.
Yes.
What color will our shoes be?
Red, or they can be red or white.
Okay. And will it be military type of material or just something that looks booty?
It will be tactical clothing. It will be tactical looking. And then the first iteration will be tactical looking, but then it's going to be for you to, for all of us to decide what it looks like, what it's going to look like. What do you think it should look like? Do you think it should be tactical looking? And that's actually a question for each of us.
That's my first mind to look for something tactical looking, but in white, it'll be unique for me to see if there's anything in those colors. So I'm gonna look out there and see.
Yes, there is now. Some of the clothing out there that I looked at was in other fields that were tactical.
Okay.
Or other fields that required a lot of physical activity.
Gotcha.
So, we'll take a look at some of it. Once it's put together, I'll present the photos so that you can see what it looks like on. And then from there we can decide whether that's what we want to start with, keeping in mind that it is a starting point, but it doesn't have to be where we stay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Islam.
All right. I yield. Islam. Thank you.
Islam. Yeah, so we wanna at least get a starting point on what the peace officers are going to look like, and then we'll go from there. Yes, Islam Justice Yakub. Go ahead. *6, if you will, and that will allow you. Go ahead, Justice.
Islam. Last night I had a dream, and in this dream I was discoursing with some Albions. They were accusing and so on. And I tried to explain, but they couldn't grasp what I was saying. Eventually, 3 ancestors came on scene and dispersed the entire thing. They said enough, right? And they were dressed in a long garb. They would look like
Empress Messiah Bay.
Go ahead, Justice. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would look like what you would think Hebrew Israelites would look like back in the day. The cloth looked tough, and it had stripes of different colors. Okay, but it was more, of course, their aura that, they had beards and afros that were, a little longer than normal, and they looked very stern but peaceful and dispersed. So you have that as an option too, where you have a long top that reaches under the knee and a pants that matches that same as the West Africans use something like that as well too,
Yes.
All right, Islam.
Yes. I thought about something like that too, and we can, move in that direction. The only reason that we're not starting out in that direction is because we need more seamstresses who can do the work. If we're all going to be wearing the same uniform, right now we're in transition, but we need the seamstresses to be able to do the output on what you're referring to, which is having the long over covering, and then the pants underneath that match, the long over covering. I like that. I love that, actually. I think it's but then we also want to keep in mind that the clothing needs to be close to it needs to be something that's not, but again, we're peace. We are peace, and so we're going to look like peace, and we're going to be peace. So how does peace present itself? How does peace present itself? I love the love that's going on in the chat right now. I love it. But especially among the empresses, it is there. Yes, Islam, among the matriarchs. I'm going to squeeze on in there too. I love y'all too. I love it. It's beautiful. So we want to present peace, and however peace presents itself is what we are, is what we will do, and how we will do it. So we'll keep that in mind as well. And again, there are other names or appellations, Islam. I love you too, Empress. There are other names for I love you too, Empress Patricia and Empress Portia. And so there are other names for our wazirs and officers and et cetera, razams and viziers, et cetera. And so with each change, we can put forth a different uniform or a different something that we wear. We're not reinventing the wheel. If there are any other Moorish law enforcement out there who want to show their uniformity, we would love to look at it and see it. And then from there we will pull from that and present ourselves as well as our nation and our government. So I believe that's about all that I have with regard to uniforms, and then we'll present some photos of the uniform once it gets here, the different pieces. Because I actually pulled some things together, because we can do that. We don't have to look like any specific, anything that's already out there. But by the same token, we don't have to look like, we can do whatever we want with this piece, So we'll start out with something plain and simple, and then based on what the feedback is from everyone, we will make the adjustments, and then it needs to be something that everyone can get a hold of. And when everyone gets a hold of it, then we go from there. So we'll present this the same way we presented the consulates and the stamps and the seals and everything that we've done thus far. We just we do it first, and then we present it, and then we tell everyone where they can get theirs from. And as a nation, that is how we're spreading out the meeting of the needs for where resources are concerned. Is each one is taking care of them, of what they need, in alignment with everyone. And when we do it that way, it's still very uniform and unified, and we get a lot more done a lot quicker that way. Knowing that once we stand completely up, okay, we're already standing, we know that, but there are some competencies that we must present. And when we present those competencies, and this is another one of those competencies that says, do you know how to take care of this vast estate? How do you take care of it? How do you secure it? And even then, we're going to be tested in those competencies, okay? We're going to be tested in those competencies.
Humble before God, but I even being
okay. So let's be prepared for that as well. The testing won't be anything that we can't get past and get beyond and rise above. So let's get ready. Having said that, I believe that's it for this week. If there are not any other questions or comments, then hopefully by this time next week we'll have all of the uniform pieces will have come in, and we'll be able to show you some photos of that. Okay. And again, this is right in alignment with the energy and the cosmos and the astrology of our nation, where we stand. This is right on time for that. Over the next few days, in conclusion of this particular call for this week, or for today rather, it's not really a conclusion, it's just a continuation, because we'll be right back here next week. But having said that, knowing what we know about the cosmology and the astrology that's going on right now, let's tap into that as much as possible. And then for those of you who will be coming here on October 31st for the Mima Mounds Ancestral Solemn Assembly that we're having out there at Mima Mounds at Olympia, Washington Territory, please let me know that you're coming. I've heard from some of the Moors in the other territories. Some are coming in on the 29th. Some are coming in on the 30th, okay? And some are coming in even earlier than that. So for those who are going to be coming to the territory earlier than the 29th or on the 29th, we want to get together on the 30th and plan for what we're going to do after Mima Mounds. I have some other things that we're going to be doing after Mima Mounds, including sitting and breaking bread together and sharing our ideas as far as nation building is concerned and how to further the things that we're doing with regard to nation building and building our government, etc. So those who are going to be coming here, that I'm looking forward to that. Please send me a text message or call me and let me know when you're coming, how many are coming with you, etc., so that we can continue to build our nation in that manner and, get together and connect in the spirit as well as in the physical. Other than that, that's all I have for this week, for today. Yes, there's a question in the chat. If you want to go ahead and unmute, you can *6. If you hit *6, we'll be able to hear you. Empress Asaba. If you're speaking, Empress, we can't hear you. If you'll go ahead and *6, let me see if I can do it for you. Okay. You're not muted or anything, Empress. Okay. Okay. You don't have the ability. Okay. Islam. Go ahead, Empress. The mic doesn't work. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead with your question about AA222141. Do you have to have a card for what? It's actually, we actually suggest that you study that number. It is not tax exempt. It is not tax. So there's a difference between not tax, and I'll put that in the chat, and non-tax. It's not a non-tax number. And it's also not a tax exempt number. Okay, it is not taxed from the very beginning. And you don't necessarily need a card, but it's good to have a Moorish American ID in all lowercase letters. It's good to have that when you're asserting your sovereign status. And that number is not taxed by your demonstration of it. So when we go to these places and they're attempting to tax our sovereign estate, we just say, hey, we're not taxed. Here's my Moorish American ID. And your ID will have that number in all lowercase letters. So the AA will be in lowercase letters. And it will say not tax. It won't say tax exempt. It will say not tax. Okay. Justice Yearmore.
I wanted to pass the information on what those numbers mean, and what it's talking about is if one that has a card and see the number, and it'll read right there and tell you that it's talking about the years of North America, national people of the land, divine law, United States Code of Law, Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141 of a general and permanent character. That is what AA 222141 is talking about, and it is talking about the separation of powers for one, and also of the diversity of nationality, which is where we stand, because even though we all are operating in what appears to be the same place, we're operating in totally different levels of authority, of just who we are. Because being primogenitors means that there was nothing before us. And anything that came after then is something that came from us. And which that means it's off us, which means it's not the original. It is something that comes out of the original. So it's good to ask that question, and yes, find these things in the U.S. Code of Law and read them. They'll give one a great amount of information about what this actually deals with and what they tried to take out of law in 1956, because this deals with that. Islam,
and also know that the U.S. law that Justice Jerry Moore mentioned, when that law is properly decapitalized, it then becomes our law. We are the United States in all lowercase letters, in capitis diminutio nolo. We are not a corporation, not a 501c3, or anything like that, simply because those are capitalist methods of conveying debt. So we're none of that. And Justice Louis Anthony May L says in the chat, it actually, AA222141A1, it actually removes all taxes. I went to a dealership. Oh, go ahead, Justice, if you want to tell that, if you want to speak on that, Justice Louis Anthony May L, with regard to what you put in the chat.
Islam. Yeah, me and a couple of brothers went to a dealership to try and see what I could do with a document I had. And I looked at a brand new Lincoln Navigator. The price was $78,000. So I had a guy draw me up a true bill for the vehicle. And then I gave him the card and told him to run that number. And when he ran the number, it removed $8,000 in taxes.
Islam.
That was, the price came down to $70,000.
Islam.
Islam.
And there you have it. And that is what not taxed means. That's what that means. It's not that you're exempt one day and the next day you're not exempt. No, it's not taxed at all ever from the very beginning. Islam. And he had to actually demonstrate that, you see. He was competent to demonstrate that. And he did it peacefully, and guess what? The demonstration worked. Based on what he just said. So, hopefully that answers the question about AA222141A1. We are the creditors to all of the nations of the earth. We are not taxed at all times, and we do not need anyone's permission to govern our vast estate. And then when it comes to our vast estate and all of the exchanges that happen, we are to demonstrate who we are so that those things are truth for us, that we don't need anyone's permission. Princess Ali, do you want to mention that so that the empresses who are calling in by phone can hear what you just stated there?
Yes, Islam. As the emperor talked about his taxes being taken off the car, the conveyance, excuse me. I did the same thing when I went to the dealership. They knew from my ID and everything that I was sovereign, But then he gave me the last numbers, and I said, oh, this is a mistake. I'm tax exempt. And he just grabbed it and ran and came back with no taxes on it. I think it was about $8,000 or $9,000. So they took that off. And then I use it everywhere. When I go into Whole Foods, I give them the card, and if they don't know how to do it, I tell them to call their supervisor over, and the supervisor will show them. And, you know, I always say, you're welcome, because you learned something today that you will use on your job. And so now when I go into the store, they ask me, do you have your card? If I happen to forget, I say, oh, yeah, I remember. So it's fun to use it, and every store should be able to plug it in. And if they don't, they have something on their cash registers called First Union, and so they can take it off any way that they want to.
Islam. Beautiful stated, Empress. Thank you for that. And there you have it. Again, they are competent to do the not taxed demonstrations, and they do them, and guess what? They're not taxed. That's how you ensure that you're not taxed, is you do the demonstration. It's not something that just happens automatically. It happens when you demonstrate it. And that goes for everything that we do. Our status and our benefits and all that we say and all that we do, and us being the law, happens whenever we demonstrate that that's exactly what it should be. And again, we do not need anyone's permission to govern our vast estate. That is our own sovereign affair. And that is what we do. So, are there any other questions or comments, Islam? Any others?
I have a comment.
Yes.
This is Portia Khalid Obey calling from Michigan.
Can you speak up just a little bit, Empress?
Okay. I just wanted to wish my mother, Empress Noble Patricia Elbay, happy born day. Today is her born day, and that was it. I yield. I love you.
Oh, happy born day, Empress Patricia.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Love you too, Portia.
Oh, that's what all of that was about, and I'm just all up in the business. Okay.
You just fine.
Yes, Islam. I just, happy born day, Empress. Thank you so much for being here on your born day. It's funny because tomorrow is my heiress's born day.
Oh.
And I believe that's Libra balance, Empress. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Balance, law, justice, Islam, the scales.
Yes.
Yeah. The law.
Islam. That's important, Empress, right now, especially simply because the energy that you bring to the chaos that's happening out there in the ethers, it seems chaotic, but your energies will balance that chaos because you're going to be peaceful and calm, because that's what Libras do. They bring peace and calm and balance when others are tempted to go out and just be, haywire kind of sort of. You all balance that. Yes.
Yeah.
And also that balance is going to go on super high. It's on super high right now. So any of whatever your sign is, whatever your astrological or cosmological sign is, in terms of birth charts, cosmology, all of that, whatever your sign is, you and whatever the characteristic is that is most strong in that sign, for example, Leos, I can speak about Leos, or I'll speak about Libras, because since that's where we are right now. That's the sun sign that we're in. Libras because
She should be right back.
Islam.
Did somebody have something else they wanted to say or comment or ask about? Islam?
I'm just going to say thank you to all the empresses and nobles for the happy birthday wish. Happy born day.
Islam. I'm Empress. Thank you, Islam. So what I was going to say is that your
noodles.
Which really
just a moment.
We discovered in the Salem Witchcraft Annex. You know, this is all really interesting. One researcher who has studied these outbreaks is Benjamin Radford.
Hello. Peace.
Okay. Hold on for just a moment because there's some little bit of disturbance coming from somewhere.
So are outbreaks of behavior still being blamed on witchcraft?
Okay, I had to mute.
Peace.
Yes, Islam. I had to mute every. Go ahead, Empress.
Yes, ma'am. I was just hearing about the numbers, which I'm not totally familiar with. Where, what, and how do you get these numbers? I do have a card with my Moorish name, Il, on it. And is the numbers or are the numbers to be put on the card? I haven't did my full initiation of my Moorish acknowledgement as of yet. So I'm curious as to what and how to get the numbers that you all were just speaking about and on. And are the zodiac signs supposed to be put on with? I'm a Leo, so.
This well, with regard to those, that number, yes, Islam Grand Rising Empress. With regard to that number, AA222-141A1, that number is a number that deserves your study. And Empress, I'm gonna mute you just a little bit because there's a TV or something in your background that's really loud. There's a TV or a radio or something in your background.
Okay, I'm trying to turn it down now. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay, Empress. I just want you to be able to hear, and those who are on the call to be able to hear. So with regard to AA 222-141A1. Look that number up. It is a quote-unquote State Department number, and it says State Department, but in reality, we just gave them a command and said, issue, put this in your record. That's what we told them, and they did. That says that all Moors are not taxed. Okay? And so, Empress, write it down. It's also on your name change and judicial proclamation.
Okay,
that number and where it comes from.
AA. I'm sorry.
222.
That number. 222.
It's AA 222-141 A1 Truth. The word truth. TRUTH. AA 222-141 A1 Truth. And if you Google it, it will give you a starting point. But if you go to the Library of Congress, so that's www.loc.gov, and search there, you'll find it. It's going to take you to where that is located.
All right.
In the public laws. That is actually an alphanumeric code for the public laws that state it puts consular relations and diversity in the public laws. Okay. Go ahead,
Now,
Justice Gilmore.
I'm sorry, Pete. Is that a number that we just have it typed on our card, or do you all send that number out, or
no?
In order to retain that, I just wrote it down.
We have it on our ID cards, on our Moorish American ID cards. We have it on ours. But then we go ahead and we demonstrate it. So just like the Empress was saying and the Emperor was saying, whenever they went somewhere, like, you know, to go and make a sovereign exchange, they just say, okay, this is the number that you would put our not tax status with regard to this exchange. That is what that number is for. And you just tell them, and they can look it up. They can look it up. All they have to do is get a computer, get a phone, look it up.
All right.
Okay.
And
that's how we do everything that we do. Is the information is in writing, but it takes our sovereign, peaceful energy to demonstrate it, and then we state it and say, and we hold them to it, and we say, you're under this. We'll put, this is where you know, you're under the Constitution, you're under AA 222-141A1 true, Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141, 142, Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141.
Empress Light.
Yes, Islam.
Thank you.
After 141, you said it's another letter and a number, because I don't see that on my card.
It doesn't necessarily have to be on there. A1 and then the word truth. That's how it is noted in the documents, especially on the name change document. It's noted that way. Okay. But again, you know, Empress, even with your sovereign status, even if you had nothing in writing and you stated it, you're sovereign. What you say, your word is the law.
All right. And I've noticed that we have to bring the law to this establishment with its, what is it called? Color of law. They step over what our law is, and they use color of law, which it stipulates, even though they use it as law, it is not law.
Correct. And, Empress, they don't even step over what we do. They really don't step over it because they can't. If we say we don't consent to what you're saying, you can't step over it when the heirs say we're just not going to do that. Period. We're just not going to do it. And we're not going to allow you to do it either.
All right.
Period.
I love it.
Yes. We have that authority. Okay? That's like someone trying to give you a gift of a can of worms and you say, you know what? You can keep it. I'm not going to take it. Period.
All right.
And then that's why we do the things that we've done with regard to removing them from off of our resources. You know, because then they know the resources are ours, whether you're standing there or not. It's still ours.
Yes.
And then we demonstrate that, you know, and they know already. They're aware. They're well aware. Islam. So, you know, we're very, very powerful, Empress. We're very powerful, and everyone is aware of that. Everyone else, you know, who's not us knows that. So we're going to continue in that energy as well as we continue the Grand Rising. That's what the Grand Rising is. Yeah. So, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we don't, and we do that peacefully. We don't have to argue with anyone about that or anything like that. I went into Home Depot, not Home Depot, Office Depot today to get some office supplies, to send out some affidavits. And I've been in there before, and I did do the mask demonstration when I went in there, and I told you all about it about 2 or 3 months ago. I did the mask demonstration in there, and I've done it a couple of times in there. And so when I went in there today, I went in and did what I normally do, just do my, picking out of the things that I need to do the sovereign exchanges with. And I got in line, and of course, the same one that I did the demonstration with, and I showed him where he's under their rules and codes, but we're not. He came up to me, and even though he had a mask on, I could sense that he was smiling under the mask. Because, you can tell by someone's eyes if they're smiling or not. And the way they're, when smiling eyes look different from eyes that are sad or regular. And he said, yeah, you need a mask to be in here. And I was actually on the phone with one of the empresses. And so I just looked at him and I said, you and I have been through that before. And I, peacefully. And what did he do? Turned around and walked away. Because we've been through that already. And you already know I'm not going to wear one and all of that. And you know that that's for you and not for me. That's for citizens. It's for citizens and not for the heirs. So it's not that I'm anything special outside of any other heirs. We're all the heirs. No, we don't have to do that. Period. And we don't have to do that to use the resources on our land. So they had to go ahead and provide the service. They had to do that. Because those are our resources. And that's, again, what we've been saying. The resources are ours, whether they're sending their, attempting to do codes and statutes or not. The resources are still ours. And so I think that a lot of the success of the demonstrations that have been done on our land with regard to all of us, including the successful demonstrations that you've heard about on this call even, and on previous calls, it happens because the Moors who are doing the demonstrations are peaceful, but we mean what we say. And we will back it up with liens and court action,
All right.
But we mean what we say. And we can say it peacefully, walk softly, and carry a big red pen, Islam.
All right.
So,
is that the number?
Yes,
I'm sorry. Peace. Is that the number that's on? I'm sorry. Is that the number that is on Noble Drew Ali's paperwork? The number you just gave?
It's in there. It is in there. It is in there. It's in his documents as well. Yeah. It's in all documents that have to do with Moorish nationality and our status and standing. And it is in the Library of Congress documents as well.
All right.
Except that in there it's capitalized, so we have to decapitalize it, which we've done. And that's why when we refer to that number, we put lowercase letters and not uppercase.
All right.
It's fine.
Thank you so much.
So you're welcome, Empress. I believe we can go ahead. We're about 8 minutes. I believe it's 6 or 8 minutes over. Today is the first. Please get out and see and send some love energy and receive also the powerful energy that the moon will be spreading out on the earth and generating and originating through us. Get out and just send some gratitude up from the heart chakra and watch and see how that comes back to us. Islam.
All right.
It will be the full moon tonight.
Islam.
Yes.
Can I mention one more thing?
Sure, Empress.
Yes. Empress, I'm sorry. What you just mentioned as far as the new moon, is it feasible, or would you recommend that perhaps each of us go out and touch Mother Earth to send the energy so that it comes back to where it needs to go and come? Because it's like all trees have roots underneath, and they reach out with those roots in every city, country, wherever, every state, to generate that energy to which we have and to absorb from Mother Earth. Would you recommend,
Empress.
or?
I would suggest that the heirs do that. And listen, when we all do it on the same night, come on.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. When we all do that on the same night, if we all just go out there and do a little bit of grounding being take off your shoes and your socks and let your feet touch the earth.
Yes, Mother Earth.
And just send gratitude, because now we've been talking about this recently, but there's a lot of our energies that were covered in the mud floods those energies are awakened now. So right below our feet is that ancestral energy, and it's very much alive, very much alive. It's alive in the trees, the plants, the ground, all of that. Yeah. And then it also will help us to align our frequency with that of the earth. Watch how much peace you feel. Empress Portia, yes, Empress Portia said, okay, but it's cold. It will be cold, Empress. So if it's too cold for you, Empress, just do it for 2 or 3 seconds and then put your shoes back on. It will be cold, but pick some grass also, Empress. Pick some grass and do it on the grass too. And not the cement, Islam, the asphalt. So, and having said that, Empress, that was a beautiful question, by the way. Yes, please do some grounding tonight. I will be grounding around, it's going to be here, I'm at Seattle Territory, Seattle Federal Way, Washington Territory. I'll be doing some grounding periodically throughout the night. At 9 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific Coast time, Pacific time, I'll be doing some grounding right at 9 o'clock, which will be midnight on the East Coast. So if you all are out grounding at midnight, we'll be grounding at the same time. Okay. And so when we do things like that, where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there are our ancestral energies in the midst. The powerful energies are in the midst. They're in the midst already. Yes, we are the powers that be. We're that already.
Yep, ma'am.
So anyone doing any grounding tonight, know that you will not be grounding by yourself. I'll be out there grounding too, and any of the other Moors who are out. And then we're going to be doing the same thing on October 31st. When the Moors come here, we're going to do some grounding at the ancestral site, and we're going to, we're just going to pull in as much of that and put out as much of that ancestral energies as we have and can. Okay? So having said that, I'm very excited about that too. Continue in this spirit of ancestral energies. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. We are actually doing a marathon of gratitude sending out over these next 7 days for sure. But between now and December 21st, we're emanating our gratitude energy as often as possible throughout the day and the night. If you wake up in the middle of the night just to turn over, send some gratitude out. Okay? Before your feet touch the floor in the morning, send some gratitude out. Gratitude to the ancestral energies that we have crossed over. We're in the new era already. And that era belongs to the heirs. It is ours. Yes. So, and thank you, Empress Isaba in the chat, giving many thanks to all the nobles, peace, and much love. Yes. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. So we'll be all on the same page there as well. And watch what our ancestors do. Watch. I'm telling you right now, just watch what they do when we send that gratitude energy out together tonight. Watch what happens, what they do for our nation. Just watch. It's going to be beautiful. Now, those kinds of things I can say, and I put guarantees on that because I know what the ancestors are doing. It'll be 9 p.m. So at 9 p.m. Eastern, if those who are on the East or Central Time or Mountain Time, not in your territories at 9 p.m., do some grounding, and it's probably 9, it's 9, a couple of those places already. So then at 11 is a good time to do grounding as well, okay? So just start grounding. 11 p.m. Princess Ali, 11 p.m. It's already 9:15 on the East Coast. So at 11 and at midnight. At 11 and at midnight, we'll be grounding together as a nation, as one. Okay, and it only takes 2 or 3 of us. One can chase 1,000, and 2 can put 10,000 to flight.
All right.
So if there's 10 of us, or 15, or 20, or 100, or 1,000 of us, we got it's a wrap. It's done already. 11 p.m. Central. Yes, 11 and 12.
Yeah, I'm Central.
And it'll be 9 here. Yes, it'll be 9. Yes, at 9 Central, if you're in Central Territory, at 9 Central, go ahead and ground. And so that those areas that are in that territory, you'll all be grounding at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then and we'll go from there. And I'm actually going to ground on the hour so that I can make sure that I'm grounding with all the other territories, so we can make it a complete circle of energy.
Yeah.
It's on. So having said that, I believe that's all we have. Peace and grand rising to the heirs. Islam.
Grand rising.
Peace and grand
rising.
Peace and love.
Yes.
Grand rising to the heirs.
Peace and love.
Love.
Yes. Yes. I hear the bowl. Islam. The singing bowls are ringing. Islam. Who's doing the singing bowls? Who is it? Islam.
Gratitude.
Islam. Who is it? Who's doing the singing bowl?
Islam. Grand rising.
Justice
Peace
Gregory
and love.
Dwayne Royal.
Islam. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Beautiful. Islam.